Good morning, students. I hope you all are very well. So today, let's begin with new chapter in history, and the name of this chapter is New Questions and Idea. Students, before starting this chapter, I would like to say that in this chapter we will cover many things like the rise of new religions, like for example Jainism and Buddhism. What were their different teachings? How they were similar? By whom these religions were being founded, and how did they spread over the world. So without any delay, let's begin with this chapter. Introduction. Let's see what this chapter wants to say. First point, before the Janpadas came into existence, or when just before the time of introduction of Janpadas, there was many rituals and cults in the society prevailing since long, and with the time there were many people who felt that these cults and rituals are not good for society and they must be changed as time changes. There were some thinkers or some persons who started questioning or started to oppose the need of sacrifice and rituals. There were many persons who questioned that why this rituals is happening, what is the proof behind this, etc. etc. Third point, these philosophical texts which were being composed or written or collected around 600 BCE criticized the rituals or standing against the rituals, sacrifice, and laid stress or laid importance on the value of right belief and right knowledge according to the time. There was Upanishad, which has been derived from Upa means near, Ni means down, and Shad means to sit. It means that Upanishad as a word means sitting down near, means sitting near to someone, down to him. Okay. There was a group of pupils or group of students. In the ancient time, they used to go in forest and sat near a teacher, and teacher used to sit under a tree, and under the teacher on the ground, students sat and learned from the teacher. Now, what Upanishad contains? Upanishad contains philosophical speculation in the form of dialogues. Means basically it is a conversation, and most importantly it is a philosophical conversation or dialogues, exchange of dialogues between teachers and students. Rise of new religious acts. Upanishad, these religious texts, it was being accepted within the Brahmin system. Means it was accepted, widely accepted by Brahmins, but during the same period or during the same time, there were many other teachings other than Upanishad which came into existence, and they were against the system of Brahmikal. Means Upanishad was there, and during the same time there were also many texts which opposes the Brahmikal system. Buddhism and Jainism, they were the most prominent, or in other words we can say most important religion. The Varna system, which was earlier in the ancient time based on the nature of occupation done by the person, was now determined by the birth. Means Varna system has two times. In ancient period it was decided by the nature of work, but as the time passes the Varna system was now decided or being determined by the birth. For example, if you are Brahman, for example, if you are Brahman and your kid is gain birth in Brahmical society only, then he will be Brahma in his whole life. Okay. Now the fourth point, Gautam Buddha and Lord Mahavir, they opposed means they started questioning and opposing the hereditary domination, like which in point third I have told. They both started to oppose the question the hereditary domination of Brahmin Samaj and the importance attached in Varna system. I mean, basically, if we want to say in other words, though both Lord Buddha and Lord Mahavir, they were against the predetermined domination. Last, the Ved in were in Sanskrit, means the Ved, our holy scripts, they were written in Sanskrit, and we all know Sanskrit is not easily understood by every person. So there was a need of very simple language explanation for religious texts so that every person could understand it and could take the necessary teachings. Now here you can see an image on your screen. It is the image of one of the verse or one of the paragraph from Upanishad. Now let's talk about the Jainism religion. Vardhaman Mahavira and Jainism. How those both are related with each other. Let's go back in 599 BC. Okay, let's begin. So imagine that you are in 599 BC. Vardhaman Mahavira was born at Kundagrama near Vaishali in 599 BC. His father was Siddhartha, who was the head or the ruler of Kshatriya class, which was known as Janatrika, and his mother Trisala. She was the princess who belonged to Lichavi. There's a place in Bihar. Lord Mahavira was very well educated as well, and after completing his education, he got married to Yashoda. But during the time when he was 30 years of age, he left his home and family members and then went from place to place, basically in search of truth. And he practiced several disciplines, and he has suffered to many hardship for 12 years. So basically what the scene was like that, when Vardhaman Mahavira was 30 years of age, he left his family, home, everything, and went from place to place so that he can find the ultimate truth. So during that time of 12 years, he has to suffer with many difficulties. And at the age of 42, he attained or he got his answer of finding the ultimate truth, and he attained the perfect enlightenment and became Mahavira or Jinnah, or in other words we can say the conqueror. There were his followers, or his follower means the Mahavir followers were known as Jains, and after attaining the enlightenment, or in Hindi we can say Sarva Siddhi ki Prapti, he spent his 30 years of his life in preaching or in teaching the doctrine in many places. Bimbasara and Ajatshatru, these both Kshatriya kings, they were impressed by the teaching of Vardhaman Mahavira. Vardhaman Mahavira died at Pavan near Rajgriha in 527 BC at the age of 72. But by that time he has around 14,000 followers. So here you can see the image of Lord Vardhaman Mahavir, who has started the Jainism in this world. Teachings of Mahavira means up now we have studied about the life of Lord Mahavira. Now we will study about the teachings given by Lord Mahavira. He told that God was not the creator of the world. He said that, or he has a mindset that, or he has said in his teachings that the God was not the creator of the world. And he was also, second point, he was also against many ceremonies and rituals being practiced in the society, because he thinks that by these practice many people are suffering in bad condition. Third, he believed in all things. He says that everything, whether the thing is living or non-living, everything has a life. No one should injure, and non-living things like plants, trees, and living things like animal and man. No one should hurt anybody. Okay. Fourth point, he thinks that every person, or he says that every human are equal with each other, and all those who have faith or who trust in Jainism, they all are brothers and sisters without any kind of discrimination. Fifth point, he also believed that there is a life after person's death and transmigration of soul, और हिंदी which we can say, मृत्यु के बाद आत्मा नहीं मरती, आत्मा केवल शरीर बदलती है. The soul takes rebirth because of karma done by in the last birth. Karma is the cause of cycle, means karma is a never-ending cycle of death and birth. And to obtain salvation, a man must lead a good moral life and follow three things: right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. Means these three are very important to a man so that he can lead his life to a moral way. Now, how did the Jainism spread? The Lord Mahavira traveled on his foot for around 30 years from place to place and to give teachings. Second, his mission took him to places like Kosala, Magad, Champa, and many other parts of the Indian country. Third, he established many monasteries, or in Hindi we can say as Math, to spread his new faith, and these monasteries were being looked or managed by the munis or his students. After the death of Lord Mahavir, Jainism was divided into two parts or two sects, the Digambaras and the Shvetambars. The Digambars were the orthodox, or which we can say in Hindi, Kattar. The Digambars were the orthodox followers of Lord Mahavir, and if we talk about the Shvetambars, they used to wear white clothes. Okay. Now let's talk about Gautam Buddha and his religion, Buddhism. Now let's talk about Gautam Buddha and Buddhism. The original name of Gautam Buddha was Siddhartha Gautam, and he was the son of Suddhodana, and who was the chief or the ruler of the Kshatriya Sakya clan of Kapilavastu, situated in Nepal Tarai. Gautam Buddha was born in the year of 567 BC in Lumbini garden near Kapilavastu. His mother Maya died when he was 7 days old, and the rest of his life he was brought up by his stepmother Gautami. He was given the best of the education from his parents and was also being provided with all the available comforts of his life so that he can take interest in worldly affairs. Means worldly affairs we can say sansarik moh maya. He was given, he was pondered or he was affected by the human suffering, birth, disease, death, old age from early life period. Means whenever Gautam Buddha or Siddharth Gautam could see any suffering of other person, disease, etc., he was very much affected by these. Okay, and in order to divert his attention from these affairs, his father married him with a beautiful princess known as Yashodhara when he was just 19 years of age. And they had a son named as Rahul. The love of his wife and his child could not keep him tied from the worldly life. Means although he was being married and having a son, but still he was being diverted from the worldly life to these human suffering which we had just studied. So here is the ideal or the image of Lord Buddha, the great renunciation, the comfort and all the luxuries of royal life which was being given to Gautam Buddha was failed to provide any relief or any peace of mind to him. When on a one day when he was on a walk from his palace, he saw an old man who was been suffering from a disease and also a dead man. When he went more forward, these scenario or these sights or these scenes has affected him on a greatly measure, and after seeing such scenes or when he saw such scenes, he finally decided to renounce or to leave all the royal luxury life, and he went and wanted to go out from the palace to search or to find answers of these miseries of life. And when he was 29 years of age, he quietly left his palace or his home, leaving behind his family and other worldly affairs. And this event or this particular event of his life was known as the Great Renunciation, attainment of divine light. After the Great Renunciation, Gautama spent his few years of life in caves, or which we can say in Hindi in Gufa, where of Rajgirh, which was the capital of Magad. And he sat down under a banyan tree of Gaya, where the divine light or the Lord life dawned on him, and he became Buddha. From Gaya, the Buddha proceeded to the deer park at Sarnath, which was situated near the Varanasi, where he delivered his first speech after the attainment of divine light. This event was particularly known as the Dharma Chakra Paravartan, or turning the wheel of law in Buddhism. And there were the five holy men, or we can say them as the student of Buddha's disciples. He spent remaining years of his life in teaching his teaches. Oh, sorry. He spent his remaining years of life by teaching to people from one place to another. And he has also established the order of monks, which was known as Sangha, so that every person can preach to Buddhism. It has been said that Lord Buddha has died in 487 BC at Kushinagar at the age of 80. Teachings of Buddha and the Four Noble Truths. Buddhism is known as the or is regarded as the middle path so that the two extreme can be avoided, luxurious rituals of Hinduism and rigorous austerity of Jainism. Means between Hinduism and Jainism there was a middle path known as Buddhism. It has been regarded as. And the Buddha's teachings were very simple, and these were explained in the language which people can understand. Now, what were the Four Noble Truths? The world is full of suffering. Second, suffering is caused by due to human desire or human imagination, and sorrow can be ended. And if you want to end the sorrows, then you have to overcome your desires. And if you want to achieve the desire, then it can be overcome, and the freedom from birth, death, and rebirth is achieved when you attain the nirvana. Now, what were the eightfold paths being given from Lord Buddha? First is right faith, second is right thought, third is right speech, fourth is right action, fifth is right living, sixth is right efforts, seventh is right remembrance, and the eighth and the last one is the right meditation. Now, the development of Buddhism after the death of Lord Buddha. There was three Buddhist literatures, and they were, first is Vinaya Pitaka, second was Sutta Pitaka, and the third was Abhidhamma Pitaka. Now, what these three contain? First, Vinaya Pitaka contains the rules for the monks, those rules and regulations to be followed by the Buddhist monks. Second, Sutta Pitaka contains the old teachings and religious discourses of Lord or given by Lord Buddha. The third, Abhidhamma Pitaka, it contains the philosophical principles given by or given in Buddhism. These were the Jatakas, or it was the previous birth story of Lord Buddha. Spread of Buddhism. Simplicity, the teachings being given in Buddhism was very simple and easily understood by the many people. Missionary religion. There were many Buddhist monks and nuns who traveled from place to place far on the earth so that they could provide teachings in Buddhism to people. And there was also no caste system in Buddhism. All were equal if they follow Buddhism. Royal patronage. Ashoka made Buddhism the state religion. Means the great Ashoka, about which we have studied in history, he declared the Buddhism as the state religion. He sent missionaries, or he has sent many people to spread Buddhism around the world. There were also many Buddhist universities like Nalanda, Takshashila and Gaya, which were able to attract the students from all over the Asia and world. And after completing their education in such universities, those students would carry the message of Buddha to their native land. Now, what was the main causes of decline of Buddhism in India? Reform in Hindu. There were many useless and irrational rituals which were being put off to an end, and the true Vedic spirit came into existence, and all the evils in the Hindu society was removed. So, it was considered as the reform in Hinduism. And Muslim invasion. There were many Muslim invaders which gave their death blow, which ended the Buddhism Okay, what were the similarities between Jainism and Buddhism? Both were started, means Vardhaman Mahavira and Lord Buddha, they were the members of Kshatriya class, and they were both opposing the Brahminical supremacy or the Brahminical following in the society. They both were attracted towards the lower one, particularly the Vaishya or traders. Both were very simple religion without any elaborate or descriptive rituals and practice. Very simple, down to earth. And they taught in the language, or they have given their teachings in such language which was easily understood by many people. Now, what was the difference? Lord Buddha stayed away, or he did not discuss regarding the God, but Lord Mahavira denied that there is an existence of God. Jainism used to focus on non-violence, while Buddhism tried to avoid it. Third, Buddhists did not believe in remaining without clothes like Jainism. Buddhism spread beyond the India boundaries, while Jainism remained in certain India or certain parts of India itself. Buddhists attack the Varna system, or Buddhists they have problem with the Varna system of society, while Jainism was not that vocal. Now, what were the monasteries? Monks and nuns, they did not stay at a place for a long time, and during the long monsoon, while traveling was very difficult, they took their shelter. They used to live in caves or in temporary homes, and in due course, or during that time, permanent residence, which is also known as viharas, or in English monasteries, they were built for the proper staying of monks and nuns. And there are also separate residences or separate rooms for monks and nuns. Now, how monasteries look like? Monasteries look like the image which you are now able to see on your screen. Okay. So here comes the end of this chapter, which is named as New Questions and Ideas. I hope you have understood this chapter. You must read this chapter again and again and listen to this video so that you can understand the chapter very well, and you will be able to avoid the confusion. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.